Welcome to I Finally Get It. Have you ever heard the phrase, you don't know what you don't know? What if I told you that could actually be a business advantage? On this episode, we sit down with Jason Guidry, owner of Axe Physical Therapy. In studio with me as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it.
Probably goes back to the pre-stages before I opened up my business back in 2002. I had gone to the only person who really had any business experience that I knew was my dad. And I was sitting down in his office and, with nothing more than an entrepreneurial itch and, thinking I could do all this. I sat down in his office, and before he talked with me, he had this, I was in his office many times, but I never noticed it before. And he had this little plaque, and the plaque said something to the effect of, he didn't know it could be done, so he just went out and did it. And I thought to myself, I'm kind of in that boat right now. And it's been many, many, many times throughout my career that I've thought back on that. I don't know any better. Let's just go out and get it done.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know, and if we could remove some of those obstacles, and we didn't know any better. And, there's so many people saying, how competitive it's going to be for you to get started in business, and you're too young and you're not from here, and all these different things. And of course you gnaw on that, but if you could just remove all those things, how far could you really go? And so I've reflected back when times have gotten tough. If you're in business long enough, times are going to get tough, and you reflect back on that, right? On what could you do if you didn't know any better, just get after it.
That's huge. And actually, this brings me back when I had my DNA testing company. I ended up going and visit every lab that I worked with. And so I went to one lab. They talked about all the competitor laboratories and what all the competitor labs are doing. And I said, yeah, it's great. And so I went to another lab that I predominantly used, and they did the same thing. They talked about all the competitor labs and what they're doing. I went to that second one a couple of times, and they were really good on the surface. And then I go to this third lab, and they never talked about competitors. They only looked at what they could do and being the best that they could be. And I'm going to tell you what, they were the best laboratory, but they didn't even know it.
Yeah.
The other ones were just thinking status quo, just thinking the competitors, while this other lab was just thinking about getting better every day and being the best they could be.
Absolutely.
So really, that's a huge lesson you're bringing to us.
It is. Set your goals really high and just compete with yourself on the day-to-day, because there's always going to be people in your market trying to do what you do or say they do what you do. So, try to be more proactive than reactive, obviously, and just keep working towards those goals. And when you get there, enjoy it, because I don't think we do that enough.
We don't celebrate.
We don't celebrate the wins. That's been a big thing for me in the last couple of years to work on that.
Yeah.
And we just gotta, you just gotta keep pushing, man. Just keep pushing each other to be the best you can. And if your team is all pulling the rope in the same direction, it just makes life so much easier, and you'll get to where you want to get.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
So you started Axe 22 years ago?
Let's see, October the 1st of 2002, the week that Hurricane Lily came through was kind of a tough week.
Yep. Yeah.
Are we really opening up this week? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So
you didn't know you shouldn't.
Yeah, right. So we just got after it, right? So open up with a vision, a little business plan. It was one of those business plans where you thought this is going to be great, and it didn't really work out the way we thought it was going to. And so I found out about 18 months in, what are we going to do? No plan B. Just kind of dug in deep, and man, it's been good. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's been great.
What was some of the challenges of the early start? I always talk about, we all have this vision for our companies, and then the second we start, it goes off track.
Yeah, it was great. So early on, I had this concept. I was really work related, like, going to get your people back to work really quickly. And I had this business model. So I teamed up with a lady in town in Lafayette who had this drug screening and occupational medicine business where she saw injuries. And so I went with her to this business plan, and she said, yeah, man, I'll put up the money for that. And you can be a little small equity owner in it, could get started. I was like, awesome, 26 years old. Let's get after it. And come to find out, she didn't realize it and I didn't realize it. But at the time, if they would go to her for an injury, they wanted to go back to work without coming to therapy, if possible. So that becomes a recordable injury, which affects the insurance, which affects the safety man's bonus. So all of a sudden we realize all these potential patients we were going to have
Yeah.
we weren't going to get.
They didn't want to be patients.
No.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so we're like, oh my goodness, now what are we going to do? So I found myself going out doing home health and filling work at other clinics and just anything I could in order to try to, get business going. And it was true. I didn't have a lot of referral sources in Lafayette. I've been working in New Iberia for 2 years. So I didn't know a lot of docs and guys in Lafayette, but it didn't stop me. I mean, we had to get it going. So
yeah.
I went to a lot of doctors' offices, met with a lot of people. I started doing follow-ups with the patient with the doctor. So like they would go back to the doctor and I would go with them. And so it was an opportunity for me to really talk to the doctor about where the patient was and where they are, and an opportunity for me to meet them, because otherwise I couldn't meet them because they were too busy. Right?
Yeah. And now it's tough to get in with a doc just to.
Yeah.
So can you still do that?
I don't know. I got away from that. I don't know. You could. It was so unusual. I caught so many doctors off guard. They were like, who are you?
I think it's brilliant though.
Yeah, why are you here? I'm like, well, I just wanted to let you know how the patient's doing, and that I think we're really fast tracking Mr. LeBlanc here or what have you. And, and they were like, oh man, this is great. And so a lot of physicians at that time, because it was work oriented, business would get steered to them if they could get the patient well and back to work as soon as possible. And I was part of that package. That's kind of how I got going.
Well, it's still plan A. It's a different vehicle, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Instead of an occupational clinic.
Yeah.
You went to a medical clinic.
Absolutely. And a couple of physicians, they really appreciated that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was making them look better, right? It was just something different. I had tried in the New Iberia market when I was working over there. A couple of docs that I work with over there really appreciated it. And interestingly enough, the ones there did too. Like, you're going to take time out of your day to come with the patient, come talk to me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So it formulated a great relationship, and it was one that really kind of springboarded me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I'm really intrigued. I think you got your license as an occupational therapist.
Yes.
You could have gone and worked at a hospital. You could have gone, and you may have done some of that, but you're very entrepreneurial. Ever since I've known you, you've been an entrepreneurial-minded person. Have you had any other entrepreneurial ventures before you went into this?
Not really. I mean, I come from a background. So my dad's a business owner. His dad was a business owner. In my mind, I loved watching them just kind of create and do what they do, and thought to myself, I would love to have the autonomy, and the flexibility in my day. And I think this is what I want to do. And I told myself, after some work experience working in hospitals, like, I really thought initially, Jeff, that's what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And after being in that capacity, I decided, man, this probably really isn't me. Let me look at going to business for myself. And even if I just fall on my face, I still think I can. I still think I can make a living at this. I may not hit all my goals and expectations, but
yeah.
I think I can make a living at it, and I sure want to give it a try.
Yeah.
And I thought younger was better. And I didn't really know much. I just had my little business plan and a drive to get after it. And it has served me well so far.
When did you really become a physical therapy clinic?
Oh, gosh. So it took some time. I mean, it was open in 2002 and really got going probably towards the end of 2004.
Got it.
Is when it was really a struggle. And what I ended up doing was, through a friend of a friend, talked with an orthopedic who was in Opelousas at the time. And he and I created a friendship together. He had a passion for shoulder surgeries. I had a passion for shoulder rehabilitation. And so after meeting with him and going into his office multiple times, I said, look, man, he was sending me some patients back to Lafayette Market. And I said, what if I opened up here in Opelousas like a half a day and I split my time between both clinics? He was like, yeah, I'd support that, man. I think you do a great job, and you have you're good with your patients, and I think it'd be great. So I go back to my business partner at the time. I said, hey, listen, I want to open up another clinic. And she was like, well, we barely got this one going over here. And she was gracious enough to go along with it. And from there, man, we really, really blossomed. Really blossomed. Yeah. I was getting some part-time PT work. And then I said, look, I think I'm going to take a gamble and get a full-time PT. And he agreed to go between both clinics, and we just he's still with me today. Such a blessing. And we just kind of created it from there, and
That's
went
amazing.
from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And then the Opelousas clinic just didn't work out. It played its course, pulled away from there. And so back to 4 clinics, and all good, man. It's just been a cool ride.
Yeah. And 4 is a nice round number
Yeah,
for now.
good.
But it's your team, I find. Your team, because I've treated there. You have a gift with finding the right people and to build the staff that you have.
I think the key to our business has without a doubt been my associates, my employees. I mean, people say, "Hey, does he work for you?" I'm like, "No, he works with me."
For sure.
And that's the way I feel about all the guys that work with us, and they've been with me a long time. Most of them, some of them their entire career, and some of them most of their career. And I take a lot of pride in that. And I'm very grateful that they've entrusted their livelihood to me and with me, and they help me make decisions, and they hold me accountable, and I hold them accountable. They hold me accountable, and it's been a great relationship, and I'm so blessed to have them. I mean, they're a huge part of our success.
Yeah, no doubt
without
about
a
it.
doubt.
No doubt about it. You're in 4 areas of the state, or around this area.
Yeah.
Any plans to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking. Should the opportunity come forward and it looks like a good fit, yes, I would definitely place some other clinics if it's the right fit. And if I can find the right personnel, like you said, I mean, it's got to be the right. All facets have to be right at this point. I don't want to just dive off. I mean, like 15 years ago, if you said that, I'd be like, oh yeah, full forward, no questions asked. Now I want to make sure it's all right. You know?
No doubt about it.
Yeah, a little bit wiser in that regard.
Aren't you wiser in a lot of things?
Yeah, probably so.
What's been the biggest lesson you've learned about? There was a time when you weren't as the operator in business.
Yeah.
And today you have 4 clinics. What's the biggest lesson you've learned?
Wow. The biggest lesson I've learned is that probably being young, I was so prideful and like that, I'm going to do all this on my own. Like I'm going to figure this out on my own. And what I learned and what I practice now today is like, you have to let others lead you. Like you've got to bring people along with you to get where you want to be. You cannot do anything in this world by yourself. And in order to do that, I think you've got to practice some humility, and you've got to practice, vulnerability. You've got to just, allow others to give you some feedback that you may not really want to hear. But if you really want to get to where you want to get, and not just today, but long term, you've got to let other people come along with you. Get a mentor, get a coach, let your key people get you where you want to be.
Before we started recording, we were talking about growth mindset versus, I guess, a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And I know you have a growth. You're just built for growth. Have you learned from that? Do you share that with your people?
Yeah,
your team?
we talk about it often. I mean, growth is, we talk about growing pains. I mean, it is going to be painful to grow. There's no question about it. But I mean, everything feels good right now, and everything feels real comfortable, and we're in a good place. Like, do we really need to do more? You do, because if you're not, then you're getting left behind, especially in medicine. I mean, we're in an interesting world where things are constantly moving, and your payers are changing, your expectations are changing, and you've got to be out in front of it. And they understand that. We don't want to always do it, because I'm comfortable and I'm good right now. And do we really need to be doing this? Can we just not do that today? But maybe not today, but we're going to be growing. So let's go ahead and get on board and get in front of it, and collaboratively, why don't you have some input into what we're going to do, and let's go put it down and get it done.
Yeah. So how, on the patient care side of things, how has things changed? Because this idea of, hey, you don't know what you don't know, so go out and just do what you can. Yeah. I'm sure y'all have learned and improved and continue growing on that side too.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, it's amazing. One of my main guys that had been with me forever, he and I were discussing the other day some growth opportunities. He came to me on 2 things. Number one, like electronic medical records. I mean, Jeff, I've been doing this so long. We used to actually physically write all of our notes, right?
Of course.
And so he came to me back in like 2009 and was like, I know that we're going to have to go to electronic medical records, man, soon. and we've got these locations. Why don't we centralize all that? There's some software out there. And I'm like, man, I didn't want to do that. I was like, I don't want to do that. And he really pushed me. He did all the legwork, came down to, he kind of brought me 3 different packages. We interviewed them all. I said, what do you think? I said, I really like this one. He agreed. We went forward. Like, game changer.
Yeah, sure.
It was a game changer for us. We were way in front of everybody else doing that. Another thing was a little concept called dry needling, right? Mm-hmm. So dry needling came about probably in 2010, and no one in our area was doing it. And the same clinician came to me and was like, hey, I think I want to go to this dry needling course. I'm like, man, what are you talking about? Dry needling? Like acupuncture? Like, I don't think anybody's going to take well to that. Like, I'm not too sure about that. He goes, let me just go check it out, man. No one else is really doing that here. It may be a game changer for us. Who knows? Like, let me just go to the course and see. I mean, now, like the first course you want to tell your new grad therapist to go to is like, you're going to a dry needling course. Yeah. It's incredibly beneficial for patients. People know about it. They come asking for it, and it gets people better. Yeah. It's funny, like growth mindset. Like, had we not done those couple of things, where would we be? It's little things. And I'm sure there's dozens of other ones like that, but you do these things and let's see what happens. Oh my goodness. Now they don't all pan out great like that.
Yeah. Not all of them do.
Try things sometimes like, man, that was.
But a light bulb moment really is if you stop trying, guess what? You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're just looking at the other clinics, and about what they're doing, you're just going to get the status quo. Yeah. So you have to have that growth mindset.
Yes, you do. It sounds extreme. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, but it's true.
But I kind of adhere to that. Like, yep. I mean, I'm a competitive person. I'm competitive with myself, and I'm competitive within our group, and we all are. You don't get to be a PT or an OT because you're non-competitive. It's hard to get into this school. It's hard to do the work. And so most of the folks that work, are really all of the ones that work for me, have a competitive mindset, and they want to better themselves.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
They're competing with themselves to be better every day.
That's another light bulb moment. Yeah. It's truly, we've mentioned it, but you got to compete with yourself.
You do.
Because that's the race.
You do. You do. You've got to compete with yourself. And the other thing in therapy too is like, and when you're trying to get people better, you're part coach, part leader, part cheerleader. Like you can't really take a day off. So I tell our people all the time, like, I understand you have to come every day with your A game. And that's the expectation. If you're having a bunch of stuff going on in your personal life, when you step in that door, you kind of have to put all that aside and you got to focus on, because people are here for your help. Yeah. And so you got to be focused on them. And it's an interesting thing, right? So like, okay, man, I got to get after it today. Let's go. This person's depending upon me.
Well, and not only does it help you in your day-to-day practice, if you're going to coach the patient, they have to adopt, and you have to translate some of that growth mindset to them. Yeah. For them to go from where they are to being whole again. Yeah, right? Absolutely. And constantly asking them, like, where do you see yourself in a few years, and what road do you want to walk down? Like, do you want to be a manual specialist? Do you want to be an orthopedic-based specialist? Like, do you want to get into vestibular work? Like, what's going to be your niche? Yeah. Where are you going to be? Well, I don't know. I said, well, while we're not knowing, that's fine, but I'm coming back to you in a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about this again. Like, I don't want to wear you out, but here's the reality of it. If we don't kind of pick a road and go down, no, not making decision is a decision. Correct. So while we're waiting, time's moving on, and like, I want you to get where you want to get. So let's just pick a path. Like, you don't have to, let's not think about it too much. Just find something that's kind of in you, burning a little bit, and let's just start walking down that road, because I want you to get there. Yep. If we don't start now, it's going to get harder as time goes on. And then tell them the quote from your dad, from that plaque. Exactly. If you didn't know any better, like, how far could you get? Let's go. How far can you go? Mm-hmm. But again, I'm kind of fixed on this, translating that to the patient so they know that they're going to get where they need to get. Yeah. I mean, I think we take it for granted that, the reality is most of our patients, are going to get better. Yeah. And we don't take home the wins. We take home those that aren't getting better. We really focus on those guys a lot. Like, why aren't they getting better? Yeah, so emotionally, we dump a lot of our time into that. We don't even think about all the wins. But the reality is the bulk of the patients that come to us are going to get better in some capacity. And you just got to keep telling them, hey, just stick with it. Just stick with it. And when you're not here, because you're only with us 2 to 3 days a week, you got to do the work. And we're going to hold you accountable. And if you're not getting better, either we're not explaining something properly enough to you that you're not doing it,
at home, or maybe, are you really doing this at home?
Yeah, exactly.
You
You probably know.
Oh yeah, look, I've been a patient. That's kind of one of the reasons that got me here. I've been down that road.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to say, like, I do not want to do this today.
Yeah.
This hurts. I don't want to do this today, and I'm not going to do this today. And that's okay. You're going to have those days, but then tomorrow, enough of that.
That's right.
We got to get back on that horse, right?
That's exactly right. And this kind of segues perfectly into, give me a business tip. What would you tell a business owner, whether they're in physical therapy, occupational therapy, anything? What have you learned? Because at first I was hearing, hey, just keep going. It's going to get better.
Yeah. So I think the hardest person in the world to lead is that guy that you look at in the morning when you go to brush your teeth. And like, to lead that guy is tough. And I'd say a couple of things. And in order to get that done, I think, number one, you need to be brutally honest with yourself every day. And have that discussion with yourself. Am I where I want to be? Am I not where I want to be? And what do I need to keep doing in order to get where I want to be? And number two, I'd say, let's look at the long-term goal versus what I want to do today. Let's look at down the road. And then lastly, I guess it goes back to let others lead you. Let others get involved with what you're doing. And that could be, and that's a tough ask, because it's tough to ask people around you, like, tell me what you really think about how I'm doing with this.
Yeah.
And you have to have a relationship with that person. They're also going to be brutally honest with you. And then you process that, and you get through that. Man, I'm disappointed with what you had to say, because it may not be what I really want to hear, but now help me come up with a plan to get there, and let's execute it.
Yeah, it's huge.
Right? Let's execute that plan.
Yep.
So, it's tough, and you got to kind of put your pride aside, and it's
you
going to be humbling.
It early on. You got to be vulnerable.
You do. You have to be vulnerable, and that's tough, man. Yeah. It's tough, because you're like, well, I'm supposed to have all the answers because I'm a leader. I think that's a major misconception.
Yeah. That's I'm gonna turn this off and back on, because that's a huge light bulb moment for anybody out there listening.
Yeah. You can't have all the answers.
No. Mm-mm.
And you have to be honest with your people. Like, I don't know the answer to that.
That's right.
I'm going to get back with you. Let's work on that.
Or let's do it together.
Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why
huge.
And so I think it's taken me a while, as a young business owner, like I've got to go in here and think I need to know it all. Well, that was like ridiculous. I didn't know really anything, right? I was passionate.
Yeah.
I was passionate, and I had a good idea that didn't really work, but
I still say it worked. You chose a different vehicle.
It did. I love my dad likes to say that too. That was a really good idea that just didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, not necessarily about that, but other things. Like, it sounded great at the moment, right?
Yeah,
and it's right, but you take that and you just tweak it a little bit.
That's right.
Right. So it's still a great idea. Just need to work it, polish it a little bit.
That's exactly right. You work with teammates, other physical therapists and other clinicians and a bunch of team, and your patients all day long. So how do you leave people? So when they interact with you, how do you leave them both different and better than before they met you?
My goal is for all of them just to have a good experience through all this, because they're going through something that's very trying and tumultuous, and it's rough. And so as a team, we talk about it all the time. Like, we want the person to leave obviously physically better than when they came to us, but we want them to be emotionally better, and we want them to enjoy their time with us. So a lot of things we put them through is painful, but we still want to make it as fun for them as possible. So it's important that we don't only get the result. Like, we're not just improving range of motion and strength, but we want you to leave here with a great experience. So many people come to us, they have really no expectation other than this is going to be really rough. And when they come through it, they go, man, this wasn't bad. I really enjoyed coming to you guys. It feels like a family here. Like, it's been fun. And they had no expectation that was going to be like that. They just thought it was going to be dreadful, right? And so for them to say, oh my God, I got so much better and I feel so much better, and oh my God, I had a great time doing it. Not everyone can say that, but that's, a goal for us, is that we're working towards that. So we want to leave them not only physically better, but just holistically feeling better by the end of the session.
Thanks for joining us this week on I Finally Get It. For more light bulb moments like this, like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Check out the show notes to find out more about what Jason's up to today. You can visit our show notes at ifinallygetit.com. See you next week when we sit down with Landon Fitzgerald and he shares what he finally got. If you or someone you know is a business owner and you're willing to share the light bulb moments you think would help other business owners, reach out to me at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.